Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to PMP Live and the kickoff of Children's Book Week. My name is Leah, and I'm a bookseller at Politics and Prose. I have the pleasure of being your host today. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to this new format, where we continue to bring awesome authors and their new books to readers like you. I'm so excited to welcome our very special guest today, Renee Watson. In just a few moments, we're going to begin our chat. If you have any questions for Renee, you could click on the Ask a Question button over there at the bottom of your screen and add one there. At the end of the chat, we will have time for our guests to answer your questions. And we ask that questions are related to the book, the author, and topics brought up during the interview. As always, we thank you for your kindness and positive engagement while joining us today. You can also click on that shining green button at the bottom of your screen as well to get your own copy of Renee's new book, Ways to Make Sunshine, as well as any of our other awesome titles from our website. And if you're a student joining us today, please check with an adult before buying anything. And lastly, just a reminder that unlike in our in-person events, our guests and audience members cannot see you through the screen. So welcome to get comfortable and enjoy the discussion. So now, the event you're waiting for. It is my pleasure to introduce the amazingly talented author, educator, and activist, Renee Watson. Renee has written books for kids of all ages, including several picture books, middle grade, and young adult novels. Her books have received many honors, including the Newbery Honor and the Coretta Scott King Award for her young adult book, Piecing Me Together. Like in her writing, Renee works to use the arts to help kids of all ages create spaces to discuss social issues, including creating the I2 Arts Collective, which supports underrepresented voices in the creative arts. Renee's work shows the superpowers that words and storytelling have to make readers feel seen, moved, and challenge the world around them. Today, we are celebrating her newest book, Ways to Make Sunshine, set in Renee's hometown of Portland, Oregon. And it is my honor to introduce Renee Watson. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I am excited to be in conversation with you. So I hope you have questions. Please definitely send them in. And I'm going to start off with a poem. I wanted to share a poem about my name and tell you a little story about my name. So I am Renee, no middle name, Watson. My family, I'm the youngest of 5 children, and all of my siblings have some kind of special story tied to their name. But my name is just Renee, and they didn't think of a middle name for me. And I always felt so sad about that as a child. I wish that I had some great story to tell about how I got my name. So it used to frustrate me when I was a little kid. And then one day I learned what my name means. Someone told me the definition of my name is resurrection, to bring new life. And so then I felt kind of powerful that my name had a good meaning, that it meant something. And it made me feel special. It made me feel powerful. It made me think that anytime someone is saying my name, they're offering another chance. And they're bringing new life to a situation. And so I wrote this poem. It's a name poem, and it's something that I share a lot in schools. So if there are any educators out there, a good prompt to give young people is to tell me the story of your name. And even if you don't like the meaning of your name, when you find out what it is, then what is your personality and what do you wish your name meant? And what are the memories that you hold? So that is what this poem is about. It is called Resurrection. She named me Renee. Renee, the name that means rebirth, to bring new life. Maybe she named me this because I came last, her 5th child born just after the death of her marriage. Maybe I was prophecy that she'd live again without him. Of all the hand-me-downs bestowed on me, my name is not one of them. Roy has my father's name, and Cheryl was named by my grandmother. Teresa shares her middle name, Elizabeth, with our mom. And Diane was named after Diane Cannon because our father liked the spelling, D-Y-A-N. But there is no family history, no special tale tied to my name. It is all mine. An abracadabra name, Renee, the name of new beginnings, the name for demolishing and building back up. My name is the R&B slow jam about the love who left and came back. Is the Sunday morning hallelujah, is the protest chant, is the second line. My name carries the strength of Grandma Roberta, who died before I got to say goodbye, before I understood that grandmothers, like flowers, always die too soon. To write my name is to spell the sorrows of my ancestors, how they were sold and traded, hung and drowned, how their tears and sweat and blood seeded generations. To say my name is to pronounce resilience, is to have a bounce back accent on the tip of your tongue. To say my name is to hold a prayer, a second chance, is to count me out, watch me rise. So I wanted to share that poem because it's something special to me about names. I think it's important what you call people and what you answer to. And Ryan, the main character in Ways to Make Sunshine, she loves her name, even though she's teased a lot because people say it's a boy name. But she knows that her name means king. And her parents named her that because they want her to be a leader. And they're trying to teach her that leadership shows up in ways that sometimes are kind of small, not so much the big performative ways, like when you're on stage making a speech, but being a leader is also about listening and being kind and sharing and being thoughtful. And so Ryan, throughout the book, is trying to figure out how can she live up to her name. Her parents are always telling her, be who we called you to be who we named you to be. And so sometimes it's easy for her to live up to her name. Sometimes it's not so easy. So she, in this scene that I'm going to read, is having a hard time living up to what it means to be a leader and what it means to be thoughtful and kind, because she meets this girl at a birthday party who isn't so kind to her. So I'm going to read, I believe this is from chapter 11, and it's called Water. And what you should know is that right now, Ryan is going to her best friend's birthday party. And her friend Amanda has moved across town. So she lives in a different neighborhood now, and it's really, really fancy. This new home has a swimming pool in the house, and Ryan lives in a really old house and doesn't have a whole lot of money. So she's already feeling a little intimidated about that. And she wishes that her other friend, Kiki, was coming. So it's just her. So she feels like she doesn't have her other person with her, just in case the other new girls that are there are a little mean to her. You should also know that she's been told not to get into the swimming pool. She cannot get her hair wet because her grandmother just spent a lot of time straightening her hair. She was getting ready for Easter and wanted to have her hair straight, and she was wearing this beautiful dress, and she had to make a speech. And so her hair, which is usually in a big afro puff, is now straightened. And if she gets it wet, it's going to curl back up. So her mother told her, do not get in the pool. And Ryan has a hard time following the promise that she made. This is Water. We eat pizza and drink so much soda, my belly is tight. Then we sing happy birthday and eat cake, not chocolate, but still good. Red complains that my slice of cake is bigger than hers. And it is, but not by much. And anyway, who is she to make a big deal about whose slice is bigger? It's not her birthday. And if Amanda doesn't care, she shouldn't care. And so while she's going on and on about her slice being smaller than mine, while she's not looking, I slide an even smaller piece closer to her and exchange it. So now she really does have the worst piece. There's not that much frosting on it either. Haley sees what I've done and smiles at me. Red doesn't even notice because she's talking and talking about me and Amanda, about a friendship she knows nothing about. She says, who is Ryan, your best friend or something? Amanda says, yes, she is. I've known her since the second grade. We lived on the same block. Well, you don't live on the same block anymore, she says. You two barely see each other. How can you be best friends? It doesn't matter where your friends live. Yeah, it does matter. And I live right across the street. I spend time with Amanda every day. We walk to school together. We walk home from school together. We hang out on weekends. I wish Kiki was here. I wish Amanda's birthday party was like last year, just Amanda and Kiki and me. 3 friends is enough. Good thing Amanda's mom calls to us. Girls, let's get ready for the swimming pool. Red runs to change into her bathing suit, and everyone is acting like she didn't just say the meanest thing to me. But it doesn't matter now. We're all changed and we're going to have fun at the pool. Melissa sees me sitting on the edge of the pool and calls over to me. You don't want to join us? No, thank you, I tell her. I don't say anything about my hair. Just dip my feet in the water and kick up a gentle splash. But then Red backstrokes over to me and says, What's the matter? Scared of the water? She doesn't give me a chance to tell her how good a swimmer I am and how I go to the pool every summer. Don't be a scaredy cat. I'm not a scaredy cat, I tell her. Red shrugs and whirls away and joins the other girls and says, Let's see who can hold their breath underwater the longest. Whoever wins is Amanda's new best friend. Red looks at me when she says this. Too bad you can't swim, Ryan. I can swim. Well, you're not in the water, and that means you're not Amanda's best friend anymore. I am not going to let some girl named after a color in the rainbow tell me I'm not Amanda's best friend. I get up, go into Amanda's bedroom, and take my scarf and shower cap out of my suitcase. I know Mom said don't go swimming, but technically, this is not swimming. Plus, I am tying my hair up like I do at night and wearing my shower cap like I do in the tub. Double protection. My hair won't get that wet, will it? I rush back to the pool and get in. Once I get in the water, Red says, Now, who can hold your breath underwater the longest? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. The 6 of us sink our heads into the water. Our eyes get big and mine begin to sting, but I stay underwater. Haley is the first to pop up, and then Caitlin. Sophie is next, and I can't believe it, but Amanda is right after her. I thought she might beat us all, which would be kind of funny if she won being her own best friend. It gets down to me and Red. I close my eyes and hold on a little longer, and in a few seconds, I hear the water splash and realize Red has given in. I won. I won. I leap back on top of the water, and I am ready to celebrate. I am Amanda's best friend. I expect Amanda to be smiling, and maybe Caitlin, Sophie, and Haley too. But instead of smiles and cheers, they're all just staring at me. What happened to your hair? Haley asked. I lift my wet arm and feel around my head. My scarf and shower cap are not there. They are floating in the water. My hair is wet and I can't see it, but I know it's not straight anymore. I can tell by how fluffy it feels when I squeeze it. Your hair looks like it got electrocuted, Red says. I rush out of the pool and go into the bathroom. I stand in front of the mirror, dripping wet from the pool and my tears. Then Amanda comes to the door. She doesn't knock or ask if I'm okay. She just sits on the floor. I know it's her because she is the only one here who knows that when I'm upset, I don't want to talk about it. I can hear her breathing, and I know she'll sit there as long as I'm in here. I don't want her to miss her party, and I don't want the other girls to think I'm a crybaby. I stand close to the door and whisper to Amanda, asking her to go into my suitcase and bring me my comb. She leaves and comes back, and I open the door to let her in. I stand in front of the mirror, and I really just want to start crying all over again. Now that my hair is drying, it is even more poofy and ridiculous looking. I stare at myself and my tangled hair, and I try to remember what Grandma said about beauty. I think maybe I acted ugly today, wanting to prove Amanda was my best friend, swapping Red's cake, wanting to show off. Red is at the door now, knocking and saying, Amanda, come on. You can't stay in there and baby her all night. Why are you two even friends? Amanda says, we just are, and leaves it at that. And this makes me love Amanda even more and lets me know that no matter where we live or how big or small our houses are, we will always be friends. I wet the comb and comb through my hair. Now all of my hair is big and full and not flat at all. Amanda gives me a rubber band and I pull it. I pull my hair into it, making a big, big Afro puff. I don't wait for a compliment from Amanda. I like the way my hair looks. And this way, I don't have to worry about rainwater or shower water or pool water. I like the way my hair looks, like one big, massive storm cloud. How, if I stretch it, it boings back into place. I don't know what kind of trouble I'll be in when my mom finds out what happened, but I feel bad that grandma wasted her time straightening my hair. But right now, I try not to think about that. I walk out of the bathroom with my best friend and my natural hair, and I try to be the beautiful person grandma says I am. So I'm going to open it up for questions now and turn it back over to Leah. Thank you again for joining me today. I look forward to being in a conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Renee. That was amazing. Thank you for reading those passages and introducing us again to Ryan. So now I think we're going to go on and take some of your questions. And also, it's still time if you guys want to add some more questions, you still can. But our first question is from Charles. And Charles asks, what are the writing prompts that you think kids need most right now? Any good ideas?
Mm-hmm. I've been thinking a lot about that, especially with all the social distancing. I'm wondering what our young people are missing right now. And so I think a good prompt could just be like a list poem where you ask them to just write a list of what you miss. So what are the things that they miss doing? Maybe who do they miss hanging out with? That's one prompt that I've been using. And then also I'm grateful for, because I also think in this time, it's so easy to get caught up in how frustrating the situation is and how sad a lot of us are, right? And so we can talk about the sadness. I think that's important to make space for young people to say they're sad and they miss their friends, they miss going to school. But I also think it's important to think about what they're grateful for. So at the top of the paper, just I'm grateful for, and then a list. And at first that list might not be what we would think of, oh, this is a poem, right? But of course we can revise and get the best words to describe what we're feeling and what we're grateful for. So those are two, what I miss and what I'm grateful for.
Those are some great ideas. I love how I saw too, like that you had mentioned making a list. I don't want to give anything away from the book, but different ways to make sunshine too. I love that idea as well. So
yeah, I think it's important right now. I think it's important always to think about, especially when you're young and you're sometimes feeling so powerless, right? You don't get to make a lot of decisions. So asking a young person, well, what can you do to make sunshine in your life? Or in your friend's life, in your loved one's life? Like, what can we do to bring joy to other people? Is it calling them? Is it writing a note? Can you cook a meal with a parent or a loved one and deliver that meal? Like, how can you be a good big sister or a good big brother and show love to people and to your neighbors? So yes, that is something we've been talking about when I've been talking with young people about the book, asking them, how are they making sunshine?
Yeah, thank you so much for creating that space. It's a good kind of segue into our next one. This one's from Michelle. Michelle asks, what message do you hope readers will take away from this book, Ways to Make Sunshine?
So I think about when you're young and you have all these expectations of like adults being perfect, and Ryan is learning that everything isn't perfect and that her parents are flawed, or she can't stand the substitute teacher that she has. And so I think I'm hoping that young people walk away thinking about, yes, life isn't perfect. Sometimes you have to move out of your favorite house. And sometimes a parent loses their job and money changes. Sometimes friends are mean and relationships change, right? But you can still be your best self. And so how do we, even when maybe our circumstances are not what we want, or we're not getting our way, how do we show up for ourselves? And so Ryan is the kind of girl who literally, when she cannot go outside and play because it's a rainy day, she figures out a way to still have fun and to still make sunshine. And so, yeah, I hope young people take that away from the book, that you can love yourself and you can show love to other people, and that's a way to fight against the sadness and the anger that sometimes comes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so true. Our next one is from Heidi, and Heidi asks, what inspired you to write for this age group?
So I was just talking about this. I love this age group, and I miss working with them. I used to teach in the schools as a guest poet in the classroom, and I did a lot of work with middle school and high schoolers. But every now and then, I'd also get to go into 4th and 5th grade classrooms and teach poetry. And so I have been thinking about those voices a lot and wanting to write something for that age group that where young people can see their situations in a bite-sized, small, age-appropriate way. So that's one reason. I love 4th and 5th graders and wanted to write something for them. But also, I loved the Ramona series. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I remember how special it was to open that book and see names of streets and places that I recognized because I was walking down those same streets. And so I wanted to write kind of my ode to Ramona and have a brown girl who lives in Portland who is getting into all kind of shenanigans and running around with the boys and playing and I wanted to do something to celebrate Portland and to celebrate this little brown girl. And also, lastly, to honor my goddaughter, whose name is Ryan. Ryan loved to cook, the real Ryan in real life. When she was in the 4th grade, she loved to cook and she loved to make up all kind of recipes. And that was kind of the beginning of this story for me as a girl who likes to experiment and make magic in the kitchen. And then I kind of let the story go from there. So those are the 3 reasons why I wanted to write Ways to Make Sunshine.
Thank you so much. Yeah, loved Ryan's concoctions. Also, great word.
Braver than I am in the kitchen.
Yes, that smoothie. I loved all the things that she made. So our next one's from Jen. Jen says, I have heard you compared with Beverly Cree. Did you read Ramona books and her others when you were growing up? And if so, do you think they have had an impact on your writing? And thank you.
Yes, definitely. Like I was saying, growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, a lot of time, which was a predominantly Black neighborhood, there was a lot of stereotypes and assumptions about my neighborhood, and I wanted to write something that showed the humanity of people who live in inner cities and people who live in marginalized communities and under-resourced spaces. And so I didn't know it, of course, at the time when I was reading the Ramona series, or even when I first read House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. These women were writing about places that are sometimes forgotten, places that are overlooked or not talked about a lot. And as a writer, that gave me permission to write about home and to put setting on the page almost as a character. So in most of my books, when I'm writing, I write a lot about characters who live in Portland, but I also write characters who live in Harlem, and which is where I live now. And I learned a lot from the Ramona series about how to write setting and place and how to incorporate real things in a fiction piece. So her writing was special to me as a kid, but then as a writer, now that I'm older and looking back on that work, I'm thinking about the craft of what she did and also making sure I'm creating complex girl characters. I love that Ramona was sometimes wrong and she was messy and complicated and she would throw tantrums and she was a real girl. And so I am inspired by that, to make sure my girls feel real and not too perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much
for that question.
I think you did such a great job with Ryan, and she really is such a full character. I wish I was friends with in 4th grade.
Oh, thank you.
So our next one is from Maria. And Maria asks, you've written for teens at least one biography, which was Harlem's Little Blackbird, about Florence Mills. How aware of readers are you when you're writing? And is it different when you're writing for different ages?
Oh, yes. I'm very aware of the reader when I'm writing. And I'm definitely intentional about ages. So usually stories come to me and they kind of tell me what they want to be. So I automatically know, oh, this is for a picture book, or this is, supposed to be a YA novel. And sometimes just the rules of writing let you know that too, just what age is the protagonist, and those kinds of things also help me figure out where this story is best fit. But yeah, I'm always thinking of the readers. I think about educators. I think about parents when I'm writing. And sometimes I have to quiet that noise and just like write and let the story be what it's going to be. And then in the revision process, or right before we're about to put the book out, I do this final read through and kind of step back, and I'm no longer the writer of the piece, but thinking about, if I was an educator, how would I feel using this in the classroom? Or if I was a parent, what would I think of my child reading this? So I'm constantly juggling those things in my mind when I'm creating. But there is a point where I have to like just create and not let that guide the writing too much. But I am thinking about it.
Oh, thank you. Our next question is from Carrie. Carrie asks, what is your favorite young adult book right now? And what young adult author inspires you and why?
Oh, wow. I don't know if I can name a favorite book, but I definitely have like my go-to YA authors that I love and that I recommend a lot. I love Elizabeth Acevedo's work and recommend it all the time. Of course, my friend Jason Reynolds, recommend his books all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're asking about YA, but I want to just say some middle grade too.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy Baptiste and Nikki Grimes. Those are my writers that I'm constantly sending young people to, and that I read and reread.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that you gave me some poet snaps for Liz.
I can't help it. It just comes. So our next one is from Gabrielle from BSS. What is your favorite book you have wrote? Favorite book that you've written?
That is really hard.
I know it's hard to choose.
I don't know that I have a favorite book of mine. They're all special to me for different reasons, because of either what was happening in my life at the time that I was writing them, or how I connected with the reader because of that particular book. So I'm going to talk about two really quickly. One that is kind of maybe not my favorite, but definitely so special to me is my very first book, because it was the first, right? And so it just was such a big deal for me to have a book out in the world. It's a picture book called A Place Where Hurricanes Happen. And it's about life before, during, and after Hurricane Katrina, told from the perspective of four friends who live on the same block. And it's special to me because I had gone down to New Orleans and I did work with young people. And they wrote poems, and we just talked about what had happened and let them process all that they lost, but also let them celebrate New Orleans and their families and what they loved and what they were holding on to. So the book was based on their stories, and it's kind of a tribute to those young people. And when it came out, I got to go back to New Orleans with Shadra Strickland, who's the illustrator, and we got to give books to the kids who inspired the story. So that was a very special launch for me for my writing career. It was a beautiful way to kind of enter the publishing industry. And of course, Piecing Me Together is special. It's probably the most recognizable book of mine that people know and have read. And I say that book not because of the awards, but because it literally took me around the world. Because of Piecing Me Together, I got to go to New Zealand and Vienna and Korea and Japan and Hong Kong and all these places that I just never thought my words would take me that far. And to go overseas and talk about this little girl who grew up in Portland and share Jade's story with people was really, really special. So I think those two books I kind of hold them dear for those reasons.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So our next question is from Anna. Anna asks, when did you start writing?
So professionally, my first book came out in 2010, but I started writing in the second grade. I wrote a 21-page story in the second grade, and my teacher was like, wow, this is a long story. And she was so kind to me and said, I think maybe you're going to be a writer one day. You should stick with this. You clearly like to tell stories. And so she really encouraged my mom to get me journals and would check in on me, even like that was second grade, and I stayed in that school through the fifth grade. And even when she wasn't my teacher, if I saw her in the hallway, she would look at me and say, "Are you writing?" And she would slip me little pieces of paper with writing prompts on them and say, "Okay, I want you to go write a poem about this, or go write a short story about this." And so I've really been writing my whole life. It was a way for me to process my questions and to put all my feelings, so I journaled and also wrote stories. And I share this story often, that in middle school, I wrote a play and my teacher selected it to be the spring production. Like, they put the play on. And so I had a lot of educators in my life who really, I say, like, fanned the flame and really encouraged me to take myself serious as a writer, when really I never thought I would be an author, like a published writer. I just thought it was something I would do, on the side because I liked it. But I had teachers who said, no, you can be a writer and you should pursue that if you want. So I'm very grateful for them. So yeah, I've been writing all my life.
That's amazing. It's so great you had so much support. Like, thank you, educators.
Yes,
and
shout out
anybody
to all the educators.
can write and enjoy. So our next one is from Zola. And Zola asks, do you draw your books?
I don't. My gift is not visual art. So I am very grateful for the team of illustrators who have worked with me over the years. The illustrator of this book, who I love, is Nina Mata. And I love that there are illustrations throughout the book. And I think she's just an amazing artist. And so I was really honored to work with her.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick one of my favorites to show everyone. This is of what you read of her in the pool.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So thank you
it
so
was
much.
fun. It was fun to write and then go through and say, okay, which scenes do we want to be kind of amplified by having an illustration to go with it? And so I made a list of the ones that were like my kind of favorite scenes that I wanted to be shown, and my editor did, and then we came up with a combined list for the book.
Thank you. So our next question is from Deborah. And Deborah asks, how do you balance the need to talk about something like hair texture, a very external thing, and the hope to not focus on something like hair texture?
So I think it's important that young people recognize, and even at early ages, that they are being told what beauty is through magazines, through advertisements. Even in the store, you walk down the aisle, there's all these messages coming at you about who's beautiful and what is attractive and what you should look like. And so I think, yeah, we should think about, well, how do we want to present ourselves in the world and make that choice, but that's not the driving force and that it doesn't define who you are. And so that scene and a couple of other scenes in the book, Ryan is having to confront that. Like, I think I have this image in my head of what I'm supposed to look like, or what's cute and what's pretty and what talent is. But then I also have to think about, well, who am I and who do I want to be in the world? And what do I say is beautiful? So she's struggling with that in the book. And I think we all are. And I don't know about the other adults who have joined in, but I don't know that leaves you, right? It's something that stays with you, I think, your whole life, or for me anyway. I think just constantly having to negotiate, like, okay, these are the standards that I grew up with versus who am I really and who do I want to be? And sometimes it falls in line with the mainstream standards of beauty or of what any of the in things are. And sometimes it doesn't. And how do you make peace with that within yourself? And so Ryan is thinking about that even as a fourth grader, because I think in fourth grade, you are very aware of who's popular, who has the cute clothes, who's in the in crowd, and all of that stuff plays into that scene that I read.
Oh, it's definitely something that I relate to too, and I feel like everybody can. So our next question is from Sam, and Sam asks, "How many books have you written?"
I think there are 10. And a few that I am working on now that are not out yet. So I have, as far as like published professional work, I mean, I have stuff that no one will ever see. So also, I just want to say to writers out there, especially young writers, everything you don't have to share. Some things are just for you. And so it's okay to be writing right now and feeling like, I don't know if I want to read this out loud or share this with someone, but you can just keep your stories for yourself right now. And that's okay too. So I have a journal and I have poems and beginnings of stories that were never finished. But as far as published work out in the world, there are 10 books. And there's a range: picture book, middle grade, and YA.
I'm going to add in my own question there and ask if you can give us a teaser on what you're working on next.
Sure. I'm working on book 2 for the Ryan Hart series. So yes, I am working on the next adventures of Ryan Hart, and we pick up. I won't do any spoilers, but where the book ends is right where we pick up, with seeing what happens next in her life as her family is changing, and there's more changes on the way. So that's what I'm working on right now.
I'm going to take a few more questions. So our next one's from Jessica. And Jessica says, "I have ordered the book, but haven't received it yet. Are Ryan's friends all white? Is red? And how do you see this book addressing issues of race?"
So Ryan's friends, she has a mixture of friends in her life. She lives in Portland, Oregon. And so Portland is majority a white city. And so, yeah, she has a lot of white friends, but her best friend, Kiki, is Black, and Amanda is biracial. And Red is a white girl, yes. So she is interacting with a range of people. And in the pool, which I didn't read that full chapter, but before we get to that scene, all the textures of the other girl's hair too. And so when she's in the pool, she definitely can see that, some girls' hair, when it gets wet, it goes even straighter than it already is. And other girls' hair gets really, really curly. And then some girls' hair gets really big like hers. And so she is figuring all that out. And that is the way that I deal with race and difference in the book. There's no big like social issue that Ryan is combating or confronting, but just by way of a Black girl living in Portland, Oregon, there's the issue of difference and diversity. The main characters, it's a Black family, so their culture is definitely on the page, and I thought that was important too. So I think about diversity and race, class also, and gender. So this book, in the way of some of my young adult novels, it doesn't deal with intersectionality in that big way, like maybe Piecing Me Together or Watch Us Rise, but it definitely touches on class because her father loses his job and then works at another one that doesn't pay as much. And it touches on gender roles. Her brother, whose name is Ray and means protector, so he takes that to heart. He's always trying to protect her and shelter her and treats her like a girly girl. And she's like, I want to race bikes with the boys. I want to play. I want to be out. And I want to, so I'm thinking about all of those types of diversity and identities. And even for a fourth grader, what does that look like on the playground? And so she's figuring out how to assert herself as a girl and as a Black girl growing up in Oregon.
So I'm going to take one more. Our next one is, I don't have a name, but it's from, she says, "I'm 8. They say I'm 8, and I love, love, love to read and write. Is there advice you can give me about writing? Or what was the best advice you got when you were my age?"
I love this question. So thank you for joining in today. So my advice to you is to read. Good writers read a lot. So if you have a book that you love, I want you to read it again. So like the first time when we read something, we're just kind of taking it in and enjoying the story. But the second time you read it, I want you to put your writer hat on and think, what did this writer do? What did this author do to make me like this book so much? Like, why did I keep turning the page, and what made me want to know what's going to happen? And so that's how you start teaching yourself how to do what great writers do. So keep reading, reading, reading. And when you love a book, read it again and just kind of note how they end chapters, how they develop characters over time. And you can start doing that in your own work. So first piece of advice is to read, 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 and then keep a journal, which it sounds like you're already doing, and write. Like I always say, writers write. We can't just talk about writing. We have to actually do it. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. So that's awesome. In terms of good advice that I was given when I was your age, my mother, I didn't always listen to this advice, but she was so right when my mother would always tell me to choose my friends wisely. And I think about this now as an adult, and I always say, writing is very isolating. You're by yourself a lot, having to put down this story. And sometimes, especially as an author, I have to say no to things that I want to do, fun things. Like I can't always go hang out because I'm working on a deadline and I have to get something done. And so I have my people, my friends. I have a small group of people in my life who understand that, who cheer me on, who read work that I haven't published yet, and they give me advice. They are Team Renee, and they love me, and I need them in my life. So the best advice I can give you too is to find people, hopefully some people in your family or a teacher, a friend who you trust, who you can share your work with, and who you can be accountable to and say, I'm working on this story and I want to know what you think, and that they're going to give you good advice. So find your people and hold on to them and cherish your friendships. That's what I would say.
That's great advice. It's advice that we can all take on. Thank you so much. I always like to end on one question. So what are you reading now?
I am reading The Only Black Girls in Town by Brandy Colbert.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there any last things you want to share with us before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you to everyone who joined in today. And for any educators that are out there, there is a one-pager activity guide if you're using the books with your students that you can download from my website. It just has some questions and activities that you can do with your students. And again, thank you all for joining me. My favorite part of being an author is engaging with readers. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and thank you all so much, Politics and Prose, for hosting this event.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you everyone so much for your great contributions. And many thanks, Renee, for joining us this afternoon and sharing this amazing book. And of course, thank you all viewers for joining us today. And don't forget to click that shining green button on the bottom to buy your own copy of Ways to Make Sunshine and shop online for other books by Renee. You can also click on the button at the top of the screen and follow us on Politics and Prose, as well as check out our website for updated listings on upcoming events, just like this one. You can also follow our Children's and Teen Department on social media at Kids and Prose. And I hope you can join us again for our upcoming events for Children's Book Week. Thank you so much again. Bye, everyone. Keep reading and expanding your world, and stay safe. Thank you so much. Bye.